Cheers. Happy Wine Thursday.
Thursday. Happy shipping show.
Happy
Because
shipping show.
we
Yeah,
thought,
no, go ahead.
you know what? Shipping comes up so often when we're talking about Canadian wine, especially when we're shipping wines from wineries to people's doorsteps. So we just thought it'd be fun to hang out, have some wine, and share everything we've learned about shipping in this big country of ours.
So cheers to that, because not only you just mentioned it, it's been a conversation among us and the wineries. Every time that we meet with wineries to do something with them, it's a major part of our conversation. It's a part of our conversation between us and our members. Because every time that we do something with members, that's coming back into the conversation every time. It's a conversation between wineries and politicians. It's a conversation between among wineries together, among wine lovers among each other. It's a conversation that polarized a lot, and it take place in every wine conversation lately. It's a real thing. It's a real deal, because it affects not only it affects the whole entire wine ecosystem across the country, but it affects decision making. It affects the purchase strategies. It affects availability. It affects budget. And there's so many factors about one component, and it's such a major component. Often we talk about like the whole wine ecosystem, right? There's the viticulture, like it's the vineyard part. You have people who take care of the whole vineyard, the growing the grapes, the primary resource, right? The grapes. That's one part of the ecosystem. The winery, the production, the winemaking side, right? This is one part, one entity in the whole ecosystem. The winemaker, the philosophy of winemaking, the style of the house, and the production. That's a like. But there's also the marketing. You have to grow the grape. You have to make the wine. You have to sell the wine. You definitely is the three parts. But more and more, the shipping is becoming almost an entity on itself, because it's such a big deal. And tonight, I think we're going to touch base on that. We're going to touch base on multiple points and why it's such a big deal, and reason why it become such a huge place in the decision making, either for the wineries or the consumer. So yeah, here we are, the shipping show, and it's one of the reason why we also started to do the part of the challenge, some of the benefit that we really centered the different tiers of our VIP, the VIP Plus and the VIP Unlimited. It's about the memberships. Right? It's about the shipping.
Memberships you can join at. You can join free. You can be a VIP. And then we just launched the VIP Plus and VIP Unlimited. And yeah, one of the big perks, one of the big things with that, because they are paid memberships, is access to free shipping in some capacity, either 3 free shipping credits or unlimited free shipping with 6 bottles or more.
Yeah. So, and I think this is a big deal. This is a huge big deal, because when we talk to members across the country, that some people drop their memberships at their wine club, because it costs too much for shipping. Some people will stop purchasing some of their favorite wines because the shipping is getting too high. We see it. We see it sometimes with some of our weekly feature. If wineries are not willing to subsidize the shipping at a certain level, the shipping price getting too high, people are members buy buy less wines because of the shipping. So it's become it's a really centerpiece of the equation, a big centerpiece of the whole puzzle. That is for sure. So what are we having here in that comment? This is Mike. What Mike is talking about?
It's not showing up on the Carl's Wine Club, the regular Carl's Wine Club page. So I'm just troubleshooting that.
No, that's okay. Well, we'll talk about shipping here on my side. Now, I want to welcome everyone across the country, to all of our members, to our VIP members, to our VIP Plus, to our VIP Unlimited, all of you guys, Canadian wine lovers. It's great to have you on because I know it's a hot topic. I know that we talk about that so many times, but let's get a little bit more of a good understanding of the shipping ecosystem, if you may. I would like to say a little bit in French. Beau bonjour à tout notre groupe d'amateurs de vin canadiens en français, à tout notre monde dans la belle province de Québec, les gens des régions francophones des différentes provinces, du Nouveau-Brunswick, du Manitoba, du nord de l'Ontario, tout le monde en français, un beau bonjour. On apprécie votre support, on apprécie votre présence. Ce soir, on parle de transport, le transport des vins à travers le pays. Et ça, c'est un sujet qui est hot, c'est un sujet qui se parle beaucoup parmi les amateurs de vin, parmi les producteurs de vin, entre les producteurs et les consommateurs, entre les producteurs et les politiciens. C'est un sujet qui est très chaud. C'est un sujet qui est controversé. C'est un sujet. Puis là, on ne parle pas des lois politiques, on ne parle pas des lois provinciales qui empêchent certains transports entre provinces. Ça, c'est un autre sujet pour un autre show. On parle seulement du coût de transport du point A au point B, à quel point le transport des vins est devenu excessivement dispendieux, ce qui fait remonter le prix des vins. Des avoirs livrés à la maison, ça coûte de plus en plus cher. Donc, c'est ça qu'on va toucher ce soir. On va creuser un petit peu plus dans les circonstances et les pourquoi. Donc, merci de vous rejoindre à nous ce soir. Moi, j'ai dans mon verre un bon petit verre de Riesling. Le Riesling que j'ai été testé à l'aveugle hier, que je me suis planté assez comme il faut, merci. Donc, moi, dans mon verre, j'ai Swan Staff Riesling, loved by Lou. So, I was just saying in French, Mira, that we're not touching about the political issues in between the provincial restriction and all that. This is a complete different topic for another show. This has nothing to do with the political issues here. We're just talking about the cost, the shipping costs, and the structure and the cost involved in the whole thing. So, how are you doing on your side, Mira?
Well, pretty good. Thanks, Mike, for letting me know it wasn't showing up on our Facebook page. It's there now. So you know what? Let me just remember because we chatted about this the other day, Carl, and we were like, there's so many things to talk about shipping. Yes, we should mention, like, we're not going to get in the politics of it, but we should mention that there's a lot of gray zones in Canada on all levels to do with wine. And one of them is to do with the shipping. So that we'll just mention it and then put it aside for now. But technically, the federal government a few years ago said, yes, you can ship wines from the winery to the consumer, no problem. Some provinces have not come on board with that new law. So that's where the gray zone comes in. Some provinces are now trying to profit off of it and say, yes, you can bring wine here, but we want to find a way to tax the wine that comes in. And so they're kind of making it a little bit of a gray zone right now. And I think you'll see that get clearer and clearer in the coming years. But there are some wineries, for instance, that will not ship to certain provinces because there's too much of a gray zone, or they've been threatened by that province's liquor board in some way. But I would say 95% of the wineries we work with do ship across Canada. They might get in trouble from certain liquor boards, and those liquor boards only have teeth in so much as it's in their province. So it's a bit of a, little
Yeah,
political issue.
getting in trouble, like that. There's so little action who's been taken in the last 10 years. There's so little action. It's more threatening.
Well,
It's
because it's
more.
moving in a different direction. Like everybody knows this can't go on forever. This is really archaic stuff. And hopefully it will start to change. But in the meantime, for us as wine consumers, wine lovers, what's important to know is that you can get wine shipped to you from most places to most places. And the biggest issue now is not that, it's the cost of shipping. Now, why, Carl Boucher, why do you think the cost of shipping has skyrocketed? Because it used to be a lot more free shipping from wineries a couple years ago. And now we're seeing it going up and up and up, and to the tune of like 50, 60 bucks to ship a 6-pack of wines, for instance, sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's not out of this world to hear these kind of charge, but there's multiple reasons to that, and we're gonna start slowly. We're gonna build that up, but if there is any winemakers or winery owners who are tuning in tonight, stay tuned. Make sure you put some comments, because I want to have your perspective as well, because we had the perspective of the members. We had the perspective of the wine lovers on a daily basis, especially in the turn of last year, where the rates really, really started to climb up. Just when we went at the outside, we came out of the pandemic, there was this skyrocket of the shipping charge. Like the prices rise pretty quickly, and we heard loud and clear the wine lovers complaining about it, and also not only complaining but asking why, what is going on. But there's economic factor in there, like some fairly obvious economic factor was the price of fuel. Right, the oil price went up, the fuel went up. So we all agree that these wines are not transporting themselves from point A to point Z. It needs a mode of transportation to get there. It's either by plane or at 95% by ground. By ground, that's mean by truck. That's mean need gas to fill the trucks to go from point A to point B.
By plane too, you need gas for everything.
Exactly. So price of gas, big part of it. Size of our country, right? We don't live in a shoebox. We live in a pretty darn big country. This is a huge challenge. Logistically, and the time, seasons, because the weather is also part of it. So there's multiple factor in terms of the country that we live in, with the second biggest country in the world in terms of superficie, in terms of size. We are a huge. So where do the wineries are mostly located? Right, from BC and Ontario. But let's focus on BC just for a moment. Where are the biggest pool of population in the country? This is that corridor of the St. Lawrence River, Montreal to Toronto. 25% of the population lives there, or more than that. Yeah, like something like that. I can't remember my grade 12 class, but anyway, 50% of our Canadian population live back east. This is the most populated part of the country. So our winery here in BC are a long way to go to ship their wine to the biggest pool of population. BC, though, although built a tremendous strategy 15 years ago to build that buy local movement. That is the strongest. Like when we were living in Alberta, Mira, we look from the outside looking in. We're like, these guys in BC are freaking crazy. The buy local are so strong. Like it's just like it. I've never seen that in any other.
Everywhere for a long time. The signs were everywhere. I don't know what associations got together, but there was like billboards everywhere. Buy local, buy BC. There's little stickers on everything, right? It doesn't really exist in a lot of other provinces. So that's totally true. Yeah.
So I think BC built their local market in a way that no other province did. So a lot of the BC wine lovers live in BC. So BC sells their wine to BC people mostly. But since the opening of the country, we see for bigger producers, but also for the small wineries, the appetite to showcase their product to the big markets, to the Montreal, to the especially the Toronto market, is really, really appealing. So now to get your wine to market,
because we have to get the different perspectives, right? So it is appealing for them in the sense that, yeah, I'd love to have my wines in Montreal. There's two ways to get it there, right? For them. One is through the liquor boards, which gets really expensive because there's all these taxes added on, and there's all these minimums and quotas and shipping that they have to cover and all this. And then
Mira, that's not okay. That's the price structure, though. If you sell your wine through the liquor board channel, that's the wholesale price versus the retail price. You get 33%, 35% of your margin slash one shot. 35% of your
wholesale. But the other consideration a winery would have is once it gets there, can it be competitive? Right? Can it compete with other wines of the same caliber? Because once it gets there, they're going to slap on a ton of other taxes. And so maybe I get my wine there, but I can't sell it because it's like 40% more.
Also, the crazy margin that the liquor board are adding on to the price as well. These liquor boards, these monopoles are hungry beasts. They want a big chunk of it, right? Let's tell Mira. Remember the story we had by Effie Perel, owner and winemaker at Tender Hope?
I don't know the story, and I don't know if you should share it now that you shared his name.
Oh, I'm sure. No, there's no. So Effie tried to put his wine to the SAQ, one of his wine. So he got passed to the tasting panel. They're super interested. It was this Chardonnay. I would believe it was back in 2019. His Chardonnay got approved by the panel, the tasting panel, the whole process. And they said, okay, we need X amount of it. It's like, oh my God, this is a lot. There is something like 250 cases of one SKU. Okay, we're going to make enough exclusively for them. And Effie was selling that Chardonnay for $21. The price that the SAQ put on the bottle was $37 plus tax.
Yikes.
Effie said, what are you talking about? First and foremost, he had to slash his price all the way down to $14 to be able to sell it to them. If not, because they grinded him on the price point. So he had to lower his price to $14.
Which barely covers like the price of the glass and the label. Like, it's not a lot of money.
At the end of the day, they were selling it for $37. If he says, this is not good for my brand, I know my Chardonnay is good, but it's not $37. That's why I'm not selling it that price. I'm pricing it at $21 because I think it's a good value wine for that price. $37 doesn't make any sense. So he didn't want to damage his brand across the country. So he pulled the plug. He's like, no way, I can't do that. As much as I would like to sell 300 cases, one shot cash flow, everyone is dandy and happy, I just can't do that.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty
getting into the politics of it a little bit, but that gives you an idea of what wineries have to deal with.
Of why some wineries do not want to go that channel anymore. First, because of the wholesale price versus the retail price, but now we're facing a different problem. Instead of going one shot, one delivery with couple pallets to ship across the country, you pay shipping once. Okay, can manage. Now, if you go case by case, now we're facing the other problem that we're talking tonight. So.
Yeah. Yay, Lisa. That's awesome. I think she's talking about the upgraded memberships. So that's really great to see.
Whoop,
Thank you,
whoop,
Lisa.
whoop, whoop. There you go. That's what I'm talking about, Lisa. Welcome to the Plus or the Unlimited group. It's
Yes,
growing every day. This is so. Hey?
I'm gonna put this in the comments. So anyone who's wondering what are we talking about when we talk about these upgraded memberships, this is the link. You can check it out yourself, and you can spin to win, but only until tomorrow night. So
yeah, we're offering a good discount right now to be part of it. But yeah, anyway, so
when we get to the shipping to us, okay, like wineries shipping to us, wineries love this idea because they can just tell their story directly. They can price the wines at what they think the wines are worth. It doesn't get marked up like crazy by a liquor board. But the shipping, it has to be shipped to you. And there's a few things that have to happen. Like one is it has to be sent. So there's a lot of gas and logistics involved. And the other thing is it has to be sent with relative temperature controls, because you can't boil the wine and you can't freeze the wine or it will get ruined. Most of the time, if that happens. So, and we'll talk about that a little later too, because that's interesting. We've done some experiments with frozen or materized boiled wines that have come across, and some tips as well. But yeah, so that's the next thing. And what that boils down to for the winery is, okay, let's say I have someone that bought $100 worth of wine. In an ideal world, the winery should be able to have a bit of a profit on that, right? So for the risk they're taking as a winery, the millions of dollars they've invested, 5 to 15%, let's say, of that $100 should be a profit for the winery, right? And then the rest goes to pay like the glassware and the staff and the grapes and the vineyard people and the cost of the vineyard and like all the other things, right? The equipment. Now, if a shipping company wants to charge anywhere from $30 to $90 to ship that $100 worth of wine, the winery is fairly limited on how much of their $100 they can take and give as a subsidy towards that cost, right? Because then it eats into or exceeds what they're actually earning on that sale. And so let's say they have like $15 worth of margin to play with. Well, if they end up subsidizing it by $20, they're losing money sending that wine out. And to lose money on each individual sale means that they will go out of business at some point. So that's
but also but there. Yes, you just brought a good point, Mira. So now we're talking about, it's all about profit margin, right? You have an X amount of dollar to play with. Either they have much more in your pocket. That's why the full retail price of direct to consumer is so appealing. Just you're mentioning, you want to sell your wine not at the retail, not at the wholesale price, because you're slashed 35% right out of the gate. The full retail, that's where you want to be. But now the shipping. So if your shipping is eating too much, and there's a difference between shipping let's say a $400 case of wine. If you are there, you're drinking some premium wine. You're drinking $60 to $70 bottles. These bottles have at least $25. If you're buying a $60 wine, keep in mind, there's probably $20 easily to play with it for the producer. Now, if you are order 12 bottles of $60 wine, there's a good chunk for the producer to play with. So now that's why you see for case of 12, still often you will see free shipping for case of 12. It is doable because the pool of dollars for the profit margin is much bigger for these big, more expensive wine, so they have much more to play with. Now you try to sell a $15 bottle of wine, or let's say, okay, 15, there's not a whole lot across the country. Let's say a $22 bottle of wine. In mine, I have my BC producers here, okay? My small little, like, 2,000 cases, winery owned, like the black markets of the world, and the small guys.
Literally a family. It's literally like a couple, or a winemaker and a couple little part-time helpers. Like they're very small businesses, right?
So
Except
on
when
a
it comes to
case of
harvest, of course. Then all of a sudden, like 40 people have to come out and help. But
yeah, exactly, right. Or like when you talk about like the secret society, like a $25 wine, they have probably $5 to $6 to play with per bottle. And when I say to play with, it's it's to get the wine to destination. And so the buffer is barely non-existent for unexpensive wine. So if you subsidize, and let's say for Black Market Wine Company in Killeen, BC, to ship a 6-pack, temperature control from Killeen all the way to, let's not take a center, okay, Toronto, for example, okay, let's say just outside of Toronto. Let's use Mike LaPlante, for example. Let's say like somewhat. No, I'm just joking. But outside of a big center, it costs $60 to $75. So to ship a 6-pack of wine cross country. So if Carl's Wine Club is charging you $25, or let's say like a lot, let's say we charge you $35, because it's probably one of the top high-end shipping charge that we charge with Carl's Wine Club. That's mean that Black Market Wine Company is forking $25 to $30 out of his pocket to ship that wine to you, meaning that his margin is now close to this. That's pretty crazy, eh? When you break it down that way, there's the box, there's the splitter, there's
the cost of the box. So let's talk about the box. So this is what a box of wine kind of looks like. I've written on it. I reuse these for things. But right, 95% of the wine in Canada goes out in a box like this, right? Well, this thing, if the winery's not doing huge volume, this thing itself is like $7. Anyway, but yeah, this is what the box looks like. Oh, you sealed it up for me, Carl. Wow.
I sure did.
I'll have to go get a knife or something.
Oh, I thought I was doing it real. I wanted to have like the real feel.
I'll go find a tool. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, the box, and there's all these other, paying somebody to pack it up for you, all this stuff. So yeah, that's what sucks, is we want to support the wineries, but we don't want them to feel like, oh, we're shipping all this wine out for free, or we're losing money doing it, right? So the compromise we came up with is we said, okay, if members are willing to pay into a membership, which a lot of you have, and we're so grateful, some of that membership cost can go towards subsidizing shipments, and you get all these bonuses that we're willing to put in, included in the membership, right? Like discounts on our events that are coming up with the Canadian Wine Challenge. We're going on tour. There's going to be there is Carl's archive. Few technical little glitches this week, but it's coming out hopefully first thing tomorrow morning, of his tasting note archive. And there's time with us. So a free consult with Carl, who is a wine appraiser, who has worked on multi-million-dollar cellars, to talk about your wine collecting and some of the most important things to avoid or do. And also to talk about wine touring, which is tomorrow night's show, because we have a lot of insider tips and abilities.
And also wine tasting. We'll talk about like free wine tastings that we're gonna offer
in person to a winery. Yes, we have partners that we're working. So
and
what is the game right now? The gold medal game Daryl's mentioning.
That's the junior. That's the World Junior Hockey Tournament every year, starting on Boxing Day, Mira. This is a freaking Canadian thing here. I grew up playing my baseman, being the captain of Team Junior Canada. Like every single night, I was shooting on the wall, being the captain for the Junior Team Canada. Never made it to the big show though. It's a big thing. They've made it to the gold medal game 20 times for the last 28 years.
Wow.
That's telling you how Canadian it is, right? So
Yeah.
yes, our boys are going into the third period right now, and they're leading 2-0. So way to go, Team Canada! Way to go, guys! Connor
Woo-hoo!
Bedard, the young star from Team Canada, is going to be the first draft pick overall. Is beating all the record right now for the most points in a tournament. He's only 17 years old, something pretty cool. So he is something to watch.
Wow.
Yeah. So shipping. So we came to a situation with a few of our producers, star producers, or later in the fall this year, that they decided just to pull the plug, to not ship anymore. They didn't want to ship cross country. They decided to ship local only, because that was eating up into their margin, their profit margin, so much that it didn't make any sense. Add to that the very small crop of 2020, 19, 20, and 21, that the production level was pretty low.
Yeah.
So the choice was, are we sending exclusive? Should we try to invest a little bit more in the skills to build our direct to consumer, in the sense that our own wine club, and locally try to build it locally as much as possible, doing some event with restaurant local, and avoid to go cross country, because at the end of the day they were doing it just to move product. There is no profit margin left at the end of the day. And we were supposed to do something. I will name some wineries. We were supposed to do something with Intersection. We had some cool thing lined up about magnums and some exclusive wines, and at the end they had to pull out because shipping, the owner was not willing to subsidize the shipping at a certain level. And Mira and I, as business owner, our business, that we have our commitment to our members, and we try to offer great shipping rate, that we couldn't afford that. There was like the minimum of $50 shipping rate. So we're just like, I would love to offer this big magnum of a Passamento, or these big and yeah, we're like, shit, we can do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so these
This
are
is,
real challenge.
you're probably starting to see how this is getting problematic, because you're not going to see a lot of these really great wines. I'd say some of the best ones out there that are made in small batches by small wineries. They're never going to be in the liquor stores, more and more so not.
Nope.
And it's going to be harder and harder to get them even through shipping, unless we can find a way to get the shipping costs down, which we're working on. I don't think it has to be as impossible as it seems. So one of the things we haven't mentioned yet is the monopolies on shipping.
Wow, that's where I wanted to go. Exactly. Let's name the four. Who's the big players? Who's the big players?
Yeah, and it's good. It's good to know, because you're going to see your wine shows up at the door, right? It's going to be either through Canada Post, who are technically supposed to be the only ones shipping wine, I think, but they've relaxed that idea. Like recently, all the other couriers are now starting to realize they can ship wine too. But there's Canada Post. There's something called ATS, which is a healthcare shipper. They only ship from BC to the rest of the country. They don't ship from Ontario to BC, because what they do is they take pharmaceuticals from Ontario and bring them to BC.
Montreal, because the big channel, the big corridor of pharmaceutical and healthcare production is in between Toronto and Quebec City. So what they do to go pick up the stuff,
rather than bringing empty refrigerated climate controlled trucks from BC back to Ontario, they fill them with wine and bring them back to Ontario. But they don't do it the other way, because coming the other way, they're full of like vaccines, medical stuff. Yeah.
So that's why. And ATS is the only temperature control company, the only one. And they service pretty much every BC wineries. And it's great because we can ship BC wines in the middle of the colder freaking temperature, get them to destination fairly safely. They still grow. Not always. They're still dropping the balls quite often, but it is by far the safest way. And there's not only the cold snap, there's not only the polar vortex, there's not only the very cold temperature who is dangerous for the product. There's also the high temperature of the summer. This, it doesn't freeze the wine, it cooks the wine. So on both sides of the high season, this is dangerous. So this is another challenge why it's getting super complicated to get the wines to destination. If we had something like the Canpar, we use Loomis and the Swift Post software, they're cheaper. Like let's be real here. They're much cheaper than ATS. But some season, most of the year, at least a third of the year, you can use these guys.
Yeah. So what Canpar does, and what UPS and Purelator and FedEx have started to do, is when they know that it's wine, they will like keep it in the front of the truck where the driver is, in some part of the truck like that. They try, right? But it doesn't always happen. Maybe their air conditioning in the front is broken in the summer. Maybe in the winter their heater's not on that well, or they take a long break overnight.
Mira, listen, you can't put a pallet of wine with the driver in the front.
Exactly, that too.
Too.
But if it's just like for somebody going to their house, right? They have told us that they're trying to do that. And that's why we've seen a lot, like I'd say 95% of the wines go through even in minus 35 and they don't have issues. But what happens is if the truck gets stuck in
transit, the problem is in transit. That's the biggest problem. When the wine is on the road and going, that's not where I see the problem is in transit. When the trucks leave Toronto and has to stop in Winnipeg overnight, you're fucked.
You know? Outside and minus 50,000. And if your wine is in the middle of the truck, won't be an issue. It's gonna like be insulated. But what we've seen happen too is sometimes people are like, oh, like one half of my bottles are frozen and the other half are not. Well, that pack was just probably the lucky one that was on like the far side of the truck next to the outer wall. You know, so the outside kind of froze, a few things on the inside there. The rest was fine. So this is the kind of shit that happens. And it's not easy because it's such a big country. So you have to rely on partners who might not always understand that the wine is special. Now, we're not immune to this. It's not just wine that's an issue. It's things like Amazon ships like laundry detergent and like water bottles and like I don't know what else would have the same issues. Cheese, so there's a lot of places that would love to have better temperature controls. So what I keep saying is that there's an opportunity as the club grows to maybe play a part in that. Like maybe we have our own temperature controlled shipping network. I don't know. One thing I can say, there's a company in Ontario that is doing a phenomenal job. It's called Fill Delivery. And they are taking this to the next level for wine and beverage delivery. So they will send you a text and be like, oh, tomorrow between 3 and 5, Mike is in your neighborhood with your wine and he's going to drop it off. Are you home? Yes or no? And then if you say yes, at 3 o'clock, you get the GPS. You see, oh, Mike's 20 minutes away. And that reduces the chances of other things happening, which is like this. Your wine might get there and be fine at the door. But then if that person doesn't get your signature for whatever reason and leaves it at the door and you don't come home till the next morning,
your
wine is frozen. So these are the kinds of things that can be an issue.
Hey, Mira, I remember, well, during Christmas, we binged a little bit on John Fitzgerald Kennedy. We rewatched a couple of the documentary and then blah, blah. Anyway, so we started to dig a little bit more on Jackie Kennedy. And the second husband of Jackie was a magnate of shipping. Like he
Ari
owned like,
Onassis. Ari
there you
Onassis.
go.
Agreed.
So, and one quote that he had at the beginning of his career is like, you know what? I think he was selling like tobacco or something like
Tobacco.
that. And he realized that the shippers were making much more money than neither the manufacturer or the manufacturer, the reseller, or anyone in the chain. The one who was making the most money was the
Who was the
shipping
shipper?
company. That's the shipper. So yeah, so maybe at some point we'll stop featuring Canadian wines and we're just gonna ship Canadian wines.
We'll ship
I
Canadian
just
wines
crossed
in
my
the
mind. I don't
service,
know.
the
I don't know,
service
but yeah,
of Canadian wines of the industry, right? But yeah, this is a big thing. So
this is a huge thing. This is a massive thing. This is it's the next step in our direct to consumer ecosystem that we believe that it's going to be the game changer. It's the proper shipping network. And I'll tell you folks, I'll tell you all, since we started Carl's Wine Club, Mira has been bringing the point every single week. And for a long time, now we're focusing on a few different things. So she hasn't had the time to dig deeper into our plan to start a freaking shipping network. This has been on our mind since the very, very, very beginning. The Amazon style sommelier personalized service that's gonna deliver your wine at the door with a smile and knowing what the people are buying in the area. Like there's a huge yeah, but you know what, more and more I'm buying into it
well,
as well, because I think that's
do you know,
that's revolutionary.
do you know what? This is what Carl did for 6 years, right? In Calgary.
That's what I did.
You had what? 300 collectors, right?
Every Monday, let's say 150 active, really active.
Active. Okay. So 150 people who were collecting wines. And so every email or every Monday you were sending them an email. Hey, here's my pick of the week, right? They were saying, sure, send me 3 bottles, send me a case, send me whatever. And then they'd order on Monday, and on Friday, Carl would go around and drop off the wines. And of course, he'd text and be like, okay, I've got your wine. Can I be there at 1? Can I be there at 1:30 or whatever, right?
Believe me, I've never dropped off a case of wine at the door to any of my collectors.
And I always said to Carl, like, I didn't know anything about wine at the time or what he did, but I was like, why do you not just get some delivery guy to deliver them for you, right? And he said, that's half my business. I go to their house and we hang out and we look at their stuff in their wine cellar, and we, like Carl would say, oh, what'd you think of the one I dropped off last week? And then,
I got my hand on a couple of cases of a new stuff coming up. Yes, I want to reserve 12. And I was pre-selling the future offering on-site delivering a product. So, and I knew what they were drinking, because once a month I was showing up to their cellar and see the holes in their cellar. And half of them, I reorganized them myself. So
yeah, so it was pretty handy. It's like, I think of that, what was it? Geeks on Call, or like there was some computer company that used to exist, and they gave all their delivery people shoes, and the shoes had like Geek Squad on the shoes. So when it was snowing, you'd see Geek Squad all over their driveway, and you knew that a guy had been there and to help with their computer. Like, we need like Wine Squad shoes,
yeah,
that
the Canadian Wine Squad
all over the place.
Yeah, all of them, the hundreds of Mira's minions across the country delivering Mira's wines.
Yeah. So, I mean, hey, Daryl has a really good point here. What me paying for the service? I think he's asking about who should pay for the wine shipping, right? And that's a great question, because we talked about the margins for the wineries and how they're having a hard time covering the full cost of paying for the shipping. And even when they subsidize it, it's getting to be out of hand. Even if they subsidize it as much as they can, it's still a little too much sometimes for the shipping, right? So should there be free shipping on wine, right? There's a philosophical question.
Well, it is because, okay, put it that way. I'll stop you there, Mira, because there's big players on the market, right? There's big players who has deeper pocket than the mom and pops, the Pellers of the world, the Arterra of the world, the Jackson Triggs of the world, where they can subsidize much easily than the mom and pops, right? Their production is much higher. So that's where
and herein lies the dilemma, because we want to support the mom and pops. And we honestly, by tasting so many wines, we feel that a lot of those wines are absolutely remarkable and incredible. And yes, the big wineries, they produce really consistent wines. There are some really outstanding wines there too. But often the biggest gems are from these small producers, right?
100%. 100%.
So
how do we keep the dream alive? I mean, like for the mom and pops, for the smaller producers to get their product to market in a way that they can still make a little bit of money and have their brand represented across the country without being eaten by the big guys. So yeah.
Yeah. So now we know why the prices to ship wine keep going up. It's partly because of the size of the country, the gas, but partly because of monopolies, right? So they know they can jack up their price because there's only a few companies who are even willing to go there or able to do it, right? But now let's talk about what happens to us if I think you're right, Ken. Arterra won't ship to Alberta.
No, you are right, Ken. We they don't ship to Alberta, they don't ship to Ontario, they don't ship to Quebec either. Arterra, their property in Ontario. Go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. what I was gonna say, when they're big enough, right? Often they have a lot more in the liquor stores. And so those liquor boards can then say, you want to keep selling your wines in our liquor stores, then stop shipping here direct to consumer.
They have their own agencies. They have their own agencies. They own their own agencies. So they sell their own wine to their own agencies. So the 35% margin that they're losing, they're selling it to themselves. So that 35% pays for the agency to operate, and they're sending it to the liquor board. And so that's why Arterra has not believed into the direct-to-consumer in a sense, but they are marketing the email. Like if you subscribe to the, how's that called? It's the Great
Great
Okanagan. Yeah, Great Okanagan. Yeah. Anyway, so they have a store in the Okanagan. They have their own, but they don't export outside of BC. And Arterra Ontario does the same thing in Ontario. So yeah, good point, Ken. So this is their own model.
Yeah. So people are doing what they need to do to maneuver the whole space.
And I think the whole point, Mira, why we're bringing all of that alive, and I think that's to justify the shift that we're making with Carl's Wine Club, the Great Canadian, the Canadian Wine Challenge, and the membership now. So because we listened, we did polls, we talked to our members on a regular basis, and the biggest point for them, most of the time, it's the shipping. It's not always, but often comes back to shipping. So we were asking ourselves as business owner, how can we show our members, the membership, that we listen to them and we try to figure it out? And by the end of the day, that was to build this VIP Plus, VIP Unlimited, and to add to that the free shipping. And I think that's hopefully that's what's going to take the Canadian the Canadian Wine Challenge to the next level, and just bring a ton of new Canadian wine lovers on board with us, and just keep growing our wine community. But at the end of the day, we know that shipping is a challenge, that shipping is a problem, and shipping has to be improved. So, yeah.
Now, there's a couple of things I want to talk about too before we go. Okay, so hot and cold weather. Let's go back to that, because we often, hear from people that are worried, like, oh, I just got my wine and it's a little bit warm and it's hot outside. Is it going to be maturized? So, how do you know if a wine's quality has been impacted by the way that it's been shipped? And I think that we've seen, I don't know how many thousands, but thousands of packs get shipped back and forth in all kinds of weather over the last 2.5 years. I would say less than 3%.
Less than what? Sorry, you cut off here, Mira. Can you say that again?
I'd say less than 3% have been affected in some way by the weather. Okay, partly because we take some steps. Okay, so like when we see the weather is terrible, we'll tell the winery, hold back on the wine unless we know it's ATS and it's temperature controlled. So we take some steps to prevent that. But let's say, the last few weeks there was that -50 in Alberta. Well, any wines going across the country that got stuck in Alberta for a few days would have gotten frozen. And in our case, there were only 2 that I know of, right, Carl? And for members that had that happen. Yes. And it was because they went Canada Post, and they shouldn't have. It was a miscommunication of some sort with the winery, because
one of the 2 was a very remote area, and only Canada Post will have delivered there. That's okay. I would say logically the winery should have part of flagging that anyway. So
yeah, so the thing to know about hot and cold, okay, so what happens if a wine is too hot? Well, it boils, right? And if it boils, it's like it's cooked, and it's going to totally change the flavors and taste kind of gross, and you can't age it anymore for the most part, right? And it's boiled. Why, Carl? Usually because
no, that's okay. Mira, stop here. It doesn't boil.
Yeah.
But the thing boils only at 100 degrees. It doesn't boil. But the heat will make it cook. So the heat, if the wine is going to go above 30, let's say 30, the wine will keep all its phenolic component, its entire integrity between acid, sugar, and alcohol at a temperature ideally of 12.5, 14.5 degrees Celsius. There's absolutely no problem at all the way down to 0, and a little below that. The wine will not freeze until -8 degrees, but -8, but it has to be at -8 for at least 3 to 4 hours. So now you have, but when you go above 24 to 25 degrees, this, to me, 25 is still in the zone of safe. 28, 29, or 27, 28, 29, that's where it's getting warm. If you keep that for an extended period of time, that's where the structure starting to disintegrate. And now the phenolic component, that's what we call the cook wine, the wine's going to oxidize. The wine's going to break down in it. So that's a little bit. And obviously, if you go 33, 34, like if you leave a case of wine in the trunk of your car, park the car for a couple of hours at 35 degrees when you're winery touring, and go home, and you'll see what you get. Piss. So
yeah, so Ken has a great point here. Like, how do you know if this has happened to your wine? The biggest telltale sign is the corks are popped, right? And that applies to whether it's hot or cold. The wine will shift in volume, and the corks will start to come out. it's hard to tell if that's happened when you have a screw cap, because it's less likely to explode, right? Or show signs of anything, right?
Correct. But you will see the cap will start to pop a little bit as well when the pressure goes really high, especially with the heat. So, but
so what do you do? Okay, let's say you get a box of wine, and if it's really bad, there'll be leakage, right? Because they will have like leaked out. So you will know right away if there's an issue. What do you do? So if you shipped it through Carl's Wine Club, contact us, right? Because what we will do is we will. Yeah, if it's a screw cap, Mike's saying you might get a concave cap, and that tells you.
mm-hmm.
And oh my God, I didn't know this. Daryl says the old Toronto LCBO had no climate control. All the wine was cooked. That location is now closed. Can you imagine? Like, LCBO is the largest wine cellar in the world.
I just went buyer. Yeah.
Large buyer or whatever in the world. Wow. For them not to have temperature controls in their warehouse. Holy cow. Largest buyer. Yeah. So anyway, if you have this happen, the wine has leaked, or you notice that the caps are bent or the corks are starting to come out, that means that it's been either frozen or cooked a little bit on the way. If you shipped it through ordered it through Carl's Wine Club, contact us, because we're going to contact the winery and make sure that we get some kind of arrangement to get those wines replaced for you.
Replaced, or if not, refunded.
Yeah, exactly. And so, Daryl knows from the inside what was going on. Oh my God, Daryl, I can't imagine those poor wineries that were sending wines there with like almost no margin, only to have their wines cooked or frozen.
I know.
So the thing to know about that is currently the shipping companies don't care about that at all. Like, they will not reimburse the wineries for the cost of the wines. So the wineries have to eat that cost if it happens. But 99% of the wineries we've dealt with will not pass that cost on to us. So they will send it back to the consumer that has.
Yeah, some we help them to cover their costs. We chip in on shipping to ship it back and blah, blah, because we always said, like, because we expect them to take care of our people, and we really want to make sure that our people are well taken care of. And it happened a few times that they did, like, it didn't really happen the proper way, so we made sure that everything was flawless. But yeah, it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge, especially this time of the year. We held at the Niagara Custom Crush Studio all of the orders for Rennie wine. We held them there for 3 weeks. During from December 15 all the way, they were shipped this week. But just to make sure that the cold snap in the prairies was cleared and the wine would go to destination in a safe environment. So, yeah.
Yeah. So until there's a better solution, which perhaps we will start to invent, now you know a little bit about why the shipping rates are high, what you can do about it, which for now is mainly just join Carl's Wine Club VIP Unlimited or VIP Plus, and you'll get some shipping credits or unlimited shipping credits that way. And then if they do get affected on the way, it's a pretty rare chance of that happening, and we will take care of you.
There you go.
So there you go. What are some of the other things about shipping? Let's see here. If you do ever get wine slushies in the mail, once you let us know and you know that there's a replacement on the way or whatever, Carl taught me this. You can always test out the wine, because we have actually tasted the wine after it's thawed, and it was great. It's just not going to age well, right? But for the first week or two after, it's
It's
sometimes
for
it's
immediate
fine.
consumption, right? Pop and
Yeah.
pour, and just play with it and have fun because it's free. At that point, when you have it confirmed that the winery is sending a replacement, they're not gonna ask you to ship the bottle back. And if they do, we'll tell them to fuck off. Like, for you, because it's not a customer service that's not the type of customer service that we're expecting from our partners. So at that point, try it. It's not going to kill you. That's not dangerous. The worst thing, that the wine is a little bit wonky, the wine has been a little bit, the structure has been affected, but you know what, most of the time the wines are delicious. Just don't age these wines, put them aside and drink them in the next couple months, and make sure that they're stored properly. But yeah, that's it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not
So
rocket
sometimes it'll be
science. And let's see if the wine like if the wine, the cork has moved a little bit, that's mean the wine's gonna leak. So don't let them sit flat. Keep them up. Keep them
yeah.
up on their butt because it's gonna leak. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and Daryl has another great tip. You can use them for gravy or cooking, things like that. So yeah, if you are a wine lover, you buy lots of wine direct from the winery in Canada, probably once a year you're going to get like a messed up one, if you order enough wine. And so, yeah, think of it on your side as kind of a bonus. You get some free wine for cooking or immediate consumption, and hopefully you get some new wine on the way real quick. Ken is saying it's 2-2 in overtime.
That's going in OT. Okay, well, let's go, boys. Let's keep it up. We want to bring the gold medal home. And to all of you Canadian wine lovers, keep supporting our juniors. Keep watching the game. We appreciate you. Tomorrow, it's the last day to spin the wheel. Spin and win a pretty good discount for your membership, the VIP Plus or the VIP Unlimited, where you're going to get free shipping this year to get your Canadian wines at home. Plus, there's so many different perks that we threw in each of these membership to make it a no-brainer for you. We want to grow that movement. We want to be the biggest movement of drinking Canadian wines in the history. We want to shift because we're still the only country, the only wine producing country who imports more of international product than we drink our own domestic product. So let's get back to this. Let's keep growing the movement, and tell your friends, and just be part of Carl's Wine Club and part of the Canadian Wine Challenge.
Amazing. Have a great night, guys. And we're back tomorrow.
Hey.
We're back tomorrow to talk about wine touring. And one of the perks of the VIP Unlimited is that you get some complimentary wine tastings in person and a consult with us about where you want to go and all the top recommended places. We can even help you book into the wineries and make it super easy. So tune in tomorrow.
Tomorrow, it's the travel show.
You got it.
You
Cheers,
got
guys.
It. Cheers, everyone. Lisa, Mike, Daryl, and everyone. Have a good evening. Go Canada, go. Let's go, boys.
Woo!